Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another replay. I am your host Lad, and today we're going to be watching Master of Books in his T95, and he is going to have a monster game in the Doom Turtle. This is a tier 9 tank and probably one of the most famous in all of World of Tanks. It's been here since the very early stages of the game and has always been phenomenal. The Doom Turtle has two things that makes it stick out, perhaps more than almost any tank at tier 9. First off, and most importantly, it has just incredible armor. If you take a look at the Doom Turtle, it has these two weak points on the top of it. Still, these are very hard to penetrate, these top bubbles, and the lower plate can be penetrated, although in very rare circumstances. Outside of that, this thing is just impenetrable for anything except 400mm heat. It really is phenomenal. And so, even though it's slow, it's able to push into the face of the enemy and do so with just incredible confidence. And paired with its second best attribute, which is going to be this 155mm gun that does 750 average alpha damage, you can do incredible things. This armor and this gun just make the Doom Turtle so incredibly powerful, and it's going to allow Master of Books to have just a phenomenal game. Right here, Master aims in, unfortunately cannot penetrate the side of that T30. However, because he's got just such incredible armor, he feels pretty safe staying on this corner, and there's a possibility he's not even spotted at the moment. Right here, Master goes ahead, puts in a shell. Unfortunately, it does look like that one deviated into the rocks, into the dirt below, and so we will see if that TD pops up with a little less health. Now Master of Books is definitely penetrated. He needs to keep his armor pointed towards that T30 and towards that Progetto, because if he turns away, he's very likely to take some huge damage in return. Now Master of Books poking in, poking out, trying to get a good shot. He should continue to keep his armor close and focused on the T30 ahead, because that is a tank that will do enormous damage. However, he decides, he takes a risk, he pokes out, he puts a shot into the M6Y, and for whatever reason, the T30 and the Progetto do not make him pay. And so I'm starting to wonder, has the T30 moved out? Now, Master of Books aiming in, he believes he can overmatch. Instead, he decides to blind fire towards where the T30 potentially could be, and we will hope that he hits something. Notice that the shells are raining in from his allies behind him, and they seem to disappear. We didn't see them hit any dirt, and so what that indicates, I think, to Master of Books and to us as the viewers, is that there probably was a T30 there. We saw that the Progetto was spotted, and so we know we weren't hitting the Progetto, and the fact that those shells weren't hitting anything that we saw probably indicates that the T30 has taken, if he hasn't taken any damage, he's at least taken some shells that could have ricocheted or could have put him at very low health. Now Master of Books is pushing up, and I just want to highlight, this is a position that's normally used by very fast tanks. Normally this position is reserved for a tank that can rush over here. However, because the T95 has this incredible armor, he's been able to push forward and get here in a sort of slow, meandering pace, and then he's able to put in huge damage into the IS-6B, shutting that vehicle down, and can back off in relative safety. Unfortunately, Master of Books did over-angle, and that's something you have to be careful with. If you turn the side of the T95 just a little bit too much, you actually can be penetrated and tracked. Unfortunately, Master of Books is also demonstrating some poor marksmanship. He needs to put these shells into the hole of the 50 TP rather than putting them into the tracks. However, I'm pretty sure he's going to correct his mistake here, and although he does get the kill, he takes a big shot in return for the 50 TP, and so right here Master of Books is just on 600 remaining health and getting flanked by a couple of enemy tanks. Excellent awareness by Master of Books. He's definitely watching his mini-map, and he sees that he's at risk of being flanked by 3 enemy tanks. Thankfully, the Progetto and the Hori 2 are both potential one-shots for him, and so he's going to hopefully find an angle, shut down the Progetto, and now one more shot ought to allow him to take down the Hori. Now, one thing you have to be careful with in this situation is you cannot angle the top of the T95 too far up. Something like this angle will allow your enemies to shoot your roof and kill you that way. And so being able to flatten this tank out is actually going to be critical towards ensuring that the roof doesn't get overmatched or shot by enemy tanks below. Now, Master of Books, with some very good awareness, still concerned about the T30 ahead of him. He knows there's an M6Y on his right and a T30 potentially on his left, although we have not seen that T30 in quite a long time. And Master decides, no risk it, no biscuit. I'm going to push around, and I'm just going to assume the T30 isn't there. Sometimes you have to take those risks. I don't love his play right here, but as we're going to see later on, it is a play that is going to end up paying off. And at this point, Master of Books can be pretty confident that the T30 is not ahead of him. If the T30 was still in his same position, he easily would have shut down our T95 friend, but thankfully that T30 has relocated somewhere, and Master of Books notices that the entirety of the eastern flank has fallen. There's actually an M6A2E1 that has pushed up all the way into the camper spot, keeping them lit, and so Master of Books is going to try to take advantage of an perhaps over-aggressive ally, or should I say enemy team. Now, he gets spotted, and it probably was not the CS-59, so something is in front of him. Master Books is going to poke over the ridge. He could go for a tracking shot, and he does get actually lucky. He didn't really aim for the tracking shot, but he manages, just with this massive gun, to shut it down anyway. And now the K-Panzer is coming forward. This tank is reliant on a siege mode, and its armor, facing a gun as big as this, is really not going to do anything. Master Books manages to get a fire. He does 900 damage with a single shell, and now he's just pushing into the face of his enemy. Thankfully, the mutts actually dropped down, and now we're going to be in this awkward spinning fight where our T95 with its really slow traverse speed is trying to outturn K-Panzer that manages to get in a shell, manages to get the ammo rack, but because the K-Panzer has such pathetic alpha damage, Master of Books manages to shut him down and only takes 341 in return, and now he's getting pressured by the CS-59. The CS-59 still a little scared, doesn't know that the T-95 is on reload, and is poking out his lower plate, which makes it an easy kill for Master of Books, and he manages to pick up his 6th kill. This is just a masterclass, a perfect demonstration of exactly what the T-95 is capable of. This tank is just incredible at pushing forward towards its enemies. If you face some stronger players and they know how to aim for the weak points, and if we're being honest, if they're aware that pressing the 2 key is a good idea, then yes, you are probably going to get shut down. However, being able to have this massive gun against players who really aren't aiming well or perhaps don't know where to aim, this tank just becomes incredibly powerful. And I think you can have some of your most special games in this tank. Already, we're up to 7,500 damage in this replay. We've blocked 5,000 total health, and now Master Books is in a 1v3 against a full health Tier 9 Object 777, a T-30 that we haven't spotted in quite a long time, and also facing an M6. And so, with only 267 health remaining, that means that Master Books is a one-shot for everybody. He gets spotted, so presumably the T-30 is behind him, and now Master Books is in a very precarious situation. He's got the armor, he manages to block a shell, this M6 is poked out, the M6 has great armor as well, and so Master Books just decides, let me get a shell into the Object 777. Unfortunately, it bounces. It wasn't a particularly well-aimed shot, and so now it looks like the enemy team will have a chance to try to pressure him. The M6 tries to shoot at this range, and M6 has no chance of penetrating a shell whatsoever. Thankfully, that shot goes into the upper plate of the 777, and at this point I think Master Books should be pretty concerned about the T-30 coming up behind him, because he was spotted earlier. It probably was not by the M6, at least from what I can tell, and so I would be guessing that a T-30 is very likely going to pop up behind him at this point. However, that has not happened yet. Master Books, his spidey senses are tingling, so he pulls back, and he's thinking about what to do. That 777 is definitely flanking behind somewhere, and this M6 pushed up, and unfortunately for our hero, he managed to be in cover just at the right moment when Master Books poked around the corner. So some good fortune for that M6, and the 777 has flanked behind. Got to turn that gun around. This traverse speed is pretty slow. Thankfully the 777 bounces his shell. Master Books misses. He now only has 5 AP shells remaining, and he's going to need to fire at least looks like 4 more shells, because that 777 should be able to take 2 shots. The M6 will take 1, and the T-30 will take at least 1, and we're still not sure where he is. When you're in a situation like this, it's often good to attack your opponents, to press forward, because if the enemy team manages to group up, a T-95 with this incredibly slow traverse speed is just a sitting duck. This 777 really should wait for his allies. Instead, he makes a mistake. He starts pushing in one by one. He's going in all by himself, feeling very confident, and he takes a big shell in return. I love what Master of Books is doing right here. He is backed. He's wedged his tank right back so he can't get flanked. He's got the rocks on his right, and if he wants, he can have them on his rear. Lickety split. And so now he manages to get the reload on a slower heavy tank and manages to shut him down. The M6 arrives just a moment too late, and if that 777 had waited just a few moments, he would have been able to get the kill and the victory. Instead, he's left this poor, slow M6 completely on his own, and Master of Books shuts him down. And at this point, we have to wonder, what on earth happened to that T-30? Is he still AFK? We said before, we don't think the T-30 is still in that position. We would have assumed earlier in the game that he would have been shot. So is he AFK? Master of Books gets spotted, knows the T-30 is probably there, and puts in a beautiful blind shell to push him presumably over 10,000 damage. And we'll take a quick look at the post-game stats. Master of Books managed to slam out an incredible round. He actually got up to, we only saw 9,600 damage. He managed to get up to 11,156 total damage, of course knocking out a high caliber steel wall with over 6,000 blocked. He gets the Top Gun, he gets the Pools medal, and manages to knock out a crazy round. He did almost 4 times what anybody on his team was able to achieve. Props to that M6, who managed to have a very strong game of his own, but because his 777 foolishly pushed in without him, the M6 was left completely on its own. And if we're being honest, an M6 versus a T-95 is just no match. The T-95 just brutally counters that Tier 8 premium, and with this incredible armor, this fantastic alpha damage, and fairly good DPM overall, it looks like Master Books had no problem whatsoever. For whatever reason, that T-30 did seem to be AFK. He did actually do something in this game, so he wasn't AFK the entire time, but for whatever reason was not present for that moment. And taking a look at the post-game results here, we have 11,000 damage, 11 enemies damaged, 10 destroyed, so he killed almost everything he shot, and he ends up losing 20,000 credits, because although he didn't shoot only gold, he was shooting quite a bit, and this is not a cheap tank to run. With nearly 2,300 base experience, this really was a quintessential T-95 game. Point your gun towards the enemy and all will be well. This tank is amazing for new players. It's a blast for more experienced players. You really can't have, I think, much more fun than watching this tank go. And there are going to be plenty of situations where things go horribly, horribly wrong, where you get tracked, where your armor doesn't work against a gold spamming tier 10 heavy tank. But when you get in a tier 8 matchup like this, when you go against some players that don't really know what they're doing, you just start feeling like a raid boss, and this becomes some of the most possible fun you can possibly have in WOT. With that said, I'm Lad. I'm so thankful you were able to watch. Please consider giving a like and subscribing. We are going to have our 1,000 subscriber replay giveaway coming up soon, so looking forward to that. And I will see you in the next one. Lad, out.